Govan, and welcome back to another Era Quinn Calidrum video. This time it's kind of almost like a special announcement. I'm Atar, he's
Estness.
and we are really excited about 3D printing.
Oh yeah.
And we've got a friend, RM Studios. Mark Chabot is a super talented guy and has just recently done a Kickstarter that was beautiful. Had a ton of really cool Middle Earth stuff in it. We might possibly have printed some, maybe. We have a 3D printer now, and we love 3D printing. It's so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? There's lots of ways to make terrain. This is not the only one by any means. I love hand-sculpted stuff. I do mostly hand-sculpted stuff.
And we got tons of people in the league that's local to our area that also make epic hand-sculpted stuff.
But 3D printing is kind of nice too. And this is modular, so you can put these together in lots of different orders. They're keyed. It's called Dragon Lock. Got a little corner stub there, and a little hole there. So these stack up really nicely. This is part of his last Kickstarter. The last Kickstarter had a ton of different buildings, like a ton. I think he had 200 files or something. And you can mix and match these files and set up tables however you like. Fantasy themed things, very appropriate for Middle Earth. And we can scroll some pictures on that. The next Kickstarter just launched, so we're so excited. We joined it. Of course I joined it. So we joined it. And we joined at the full level for $60 US, $80 Canadian. You can get 3 full sets of terrain. One is forest related, lots of different tree options. One is sort of Stormguard-esque, Temple of Light kind of theme. Very appropriate for Sigmar, really fun for other fantasy uses. We only play Hobbit and Middle Earth, so we don't really have as much use for that, but boy does it look cool. I might actually print some and just cut them up and turn them into ruins a bit just because they're that cool. And then he's got a dungeon theme one, which is great for like every fantasy genre. Dol Guldur, you could use it. It's not designed for Dol Guldur, but it would work. And lots of other room for play there. Mordor, you can play with it. Even Moria, you can stretch it a bit for that. And he's got some really great stuff that's almost like scatter pieces.
Wow, those are best because they're
you
tiny.
Saw the pictures, right?
Yes, they're tiny little things you can just throw on the table to make setting up tables really easy.
Which for tournament environments is actually double helpful.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the not so tiny things. I was thinking he's got a rib cage that's bigger than a Mumak.
Oh, those guys.
But you could absolutely pretend it's a Mumak or some other ancestor of Mumak, and you put it in a desert kind of a context. It would be perfect. So Mark, super creative guy. Well done. Congratulations. And we're so excited to see this Kickstarter. I'm sure he's going to do fantastic. He's one of several guys online that are relatively new. But in the last year, he's got a bigger following than we do. And he's done really, really well.
Tends to happen with terrain channels.
Yes, terrain channels do very well. Kudos to you guys who are building terrain out there. I definitely love seeing your stuff. I've subscribed to a bunch. So, if you had to pick, what would be one key terrain piece that you would love to see?
Like new scratch built?
Yeah.
From
or
Mr.
3D
Mark,
printed, maybe.
or from anybody.
Yeah. Open thought. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to see some more very distinct Dol Guldur-esque stuff. Particularly that one chamber where they have like the 9 doors and everything.
That'd be a fun one to scratch build. That one you could not 3D print because of licensing challenges. But if you scratch built it, that would be an epic one to build. That's a good challenge right there. Tell you what I love doing. 3D print the generic stuff. Fill up a table with a bunch of 3D print things and then scratch build some iconic or epic piece that pulls it all together and plants it in Middle Earth. You can 3D print all the generic things that are sort of the less exciting pieces. They're all exciting, and terrain, good, well done terrain makes such a great gaming experience, especially in a tournament environment. And the smaller stuff, this guy sets up our tournaments. I do the admin things, I run it, he sets it up. And when you set up tables to be competitive and to play well, what do you do?
Line of sight. You always need to block line of sight. Shooting got a lot better in this edition, but it's still, it's more of a get into your opponent's head thing. But it's always important to break up the line of sight. So just throwing random little pieces of terrain just to break things up. You should always leave a couple of shooting lanes just so that people who paid tons of points for shooting don't get scrapped based on their table choice. But you don't want to make this massive open map with like 3 big buildings on it. You have to have stuff to break things up.
And there's a bunch of reasons for that. What are some of the reasons?
What do you mean, like cav and mobility?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons. So, for example, if you're on the receiving end from a shooting army, you want to have things to hide behind.
Yeah.
If you're on the shooting end, you want to have an open board so you can just shoot at everybody and they're way over there and you can kill them before they even get close to you. So, if you're designing a tournament layout, if you're setting up tables for gameplay that is both fun and competitive and fair is the big one.
Yeah.
You want to set it up so that it doesn't favor one army type over another. So there should be open places to shoot, but that shouldn't be the whole board.
Yeah.
And if you're going to play a game like Domination where you've got objectives in different places, it
Or-
leaves it up to the two
yeah.
players to set those objectives up. So one might just put them in firing lanes so he can shoot at you, but then the other might put them under cover. So it
Yeah.
balances. You get the two armies who both get a say,
And-
it'll balance.
A big thing for tables as well. If you have scatter deployment missions, that changes your entire table
Totally
setup
does.
because you need to have every board edge accessible. Because otherwise, you're going to end up having that one little building that people just stick everyone's warbands behind, and that's no fun. So you got to try to give some space off of every board edge, usually maybe like 6 inches of space if you can do it. If you have massive pieces of terrain, you just put them closer towards the middle. But scatter deployment definitely complicates things.
Now, I will say, in RM Studios, with the terrain that Mark has been working on, he and I have played together a bunch of times and have talked about this a few times. He's got lots of smart people that he talks to that know way more than I do. But we've talked with him about this, and his terrain I like. He's really done a good job of making it playable. Some of it's exciting, big stuff. Most of it's smaller. And the reason for that is you could put a big thing in the middle, make the board exciting, but then put stuff around it that makes it playable, makes the board work. And that's important. So if you were going to make a bit of a recipe for how you decorate a table and set it up so that you can play.
Well, again, it depends on scenarios. So bigger terrain pieces, I know I just said put them
Because
in the
if
middle.
you assume you're going to have a board that's going to get multiple scenarios played on it with multiple different types of armies through a day, so think tournament environment. If you were a host and you're trying to set up the board so it works for lots of things.
Yeah. Smaller stuff goes generally in the middle. There's usually 1 or 2 exciting things just to draw attention, but then everything else is small, just so everything happens around the middle. You need to have space for the armies to move.
Especially if you've got a Smaug or a Mumak, you need room.
I know I just said bigger stuff towards the middle in like a few seconds ago, but big stuff always goes in the corners unless you have scatter deployment, in which case they go closer towards the middle. But we don't do a lot of tournaments with scatter deployment just because everyone hates it. But whenever there is scatter deployment, big stuff goes in the middle. Otherwise, big stuff that's fancy and not necessarily playable goes in the corners just to draw attention, but at the same time not get in the way.
And we try to have sort of 5 spots of terrain on the board, and you can have lots of scatter between that, but something in the very middle, and then that breaks the board up into quadrants, something in the middle of each quadrant, at 5 spots where there's something to look at. And then if you've got little bits of terrain in between, trees, rocks, scatter, ruins, little stuff, then it works really well. It just makes more interest on the board to break up lines of sight and give things that Cav can run around and things people can crawl under or walk over. It just makes the game more fun, more interesting. Put water in different places along the way to break it up, or roads, or the rest of it. After those 5 core spots, 5 spots because it affects gameplay in a big way. You need to have sort of 5 major spots of terrain. But then everything else is to make it beautiful, make it fun to play. So there's some thoughts on terrain. RM Studios is making great tools. So I would strongly encourage, if you're into anything except building all your terrain for yourself, this is a great one to support. If you're into 3D printing at all, he makes it really, really easy. He's got great files and he gives really good support. You can send him messages and he will answer your questions. He'll connect you with other YouTube channels that teach you stuff that's way beyond us about how you can buy smart printers, maintain them properly. Look at some of the stuff in our playlist. It'll help you. And have some fun. You can print your own terrain and it's cheap. It's cheap, cheap, cheap. Really good investment. If you can support a campaign like this and get a library of files, he's going to dump like 200 files into the last campaign plus this campaign. No, that's late. His last campaign plus this campaign is a ton of files. There's so much terrain you could build out of these. You could easily furnish a whole tournament of like 30 tables.
Yeah, you will run out of space. That is the big thing. Do not overfill your space. Just
keep it playable.
We're running out of space over here. Just saying.
Yeah, actually, that's true. But we love it, so we keep growing it. All right, thanks so much for watching. Closing thoughts?
Get his stuff.
Thank you, Mark, for making great stuff. Really happy about it. All right, Michael Vannon, we will talk to you again next time. Thanks so much. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you soon.